Well, here we go. It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That was stuff from a band that I remember. Many people probably do not, but I loved. The band was called HSAS. And on the line right now is the A of HSAS, as well as the bassist of damn near every legendary band that there ever was. It is the one and only Kenny Aaronson. Kenny, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, man, nice to be back. Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. Well, Kenny, you're currently working with yet another legendary band, the Yardbirds. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about your career, man, because for anybody that doesn't know, yours is the kind of career that you literally have to go to Wikipedia just to see all the big-name bands and big-name artists that you've worked with.
I have to go there as well. I can't remember it anymore. I have to go to Wikipedia.
Sure. Well, I mean, from looking through it, I mean, it is literally a who's who, whether it's Bob Dylan or Derringer or, obviously now the Yardbirds and Billy Idol, Sammy Hagar, Neil Schon. I mean, these are some huge names, man. What is it about you that leads all of these guys to look for you?
I have no idea. Seriously. No, you know what? I mean, when I think about it, I say to myself, damn, you played with some really badass guitar players. And then I'll think about, well, I don't know. It just, you know what? It was just the right place at the right time.
Sure.
Certain circumstance. A lot of it was from years of being on the road and meeting people. You know, maybe I was out with Derringer or and we were opening up for, I was out with somebody and we were opening up for Journey. And so I met Nile. Or I was out with Derringer and we were opening up for Ronnie Montrose. I met Sammy. Then I know Sammy and Nile, and then I run into them somewhere, and it became, hey, man, we're thinking about doing this project. Are you interested? Right. And it'd be like, sure. And then I'm in the studio with Foghat, and they call me, and they'll go, we're going to give you this amount of money and fly you out to San Francisco and make this money and make this record. Can you do it? And I'd be like, okay. And then, I left Foghat, and they kind of got a little angry at me for doing that, but there was nothing really going on at that point, and I had to make a move. But that's just an example of how stuff happens, and that's how I sort of did the HSAS thing. Or something like with Brian Setzer, at the time, what was I doing? I was involved with Dave Edmonds, and I've been working with Dave and Chuck LaBelle and Michael Shreve, and we had done a soundtrack for the Porky's Revenge album.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, we become the house band for the MTV Guitar Greats show, and so we're backing up all these different people. We backed up Tony Iommi and Lita Ford, and I got to back up, a whole bunch of people, who were people on that bill, and Brian was one of them. And after I played with Brian says to me, hey, man, I really like your hair. I dug it from Billy Squires videos. What are you doing? I'm putting the band together. Interested? And I was like, hell yeah.
Sure.
And so that's how I hooked up with Brian. I happened to back him up, and we started talking about, like, hairdos, and I ended up playing with him. I mean, how that shit happens is just, you don't really know. It just happens different ways, and again, it's timing and circumstances and just luck. Right. And I suppose I like to think there was something about my playing that they liked,
Sure. Definitely.
So that was right at the time for that particular artist.
Right. At what age, I guess, because I'm going to assume that at one point you had to be at least a little starstruck. At what age were you when you got introduced to somebody or you got asked to join a band where you stopped being like, oh my God, that's Bob Dylan, or you know what I mean?
Probably Bob.
Okay.
I mean, you know what? I'm not. I mean, I mean, most of the people I played with, to be honest with you, were really pretty normal people. I
Sure.
mean, Billy's idol is kind of like a real rock star kind of dude.
Right.
But, there's a part of Billy that's no different than you or me or anybody else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's, we all have our normal lives, and then, when we go on stage and perform, we become these sort of, sometimes we're a bit of monsters,
Mm-hmm.
But, at the end of the day, everybody's pretty much kind of normal, most of the people. I mean, like Brian Setzer is the cat was from Long Island. I'm from Brooklyn. We knew a lot of musicians from the area that we knew in common. I mean, it's, I've always been quite used to sort of being the sideman, and I'm quite happy, backing up people, and I respect their position as being the artist that's making things happen, or
Sure.
they probably are writing all the material, and that's fine, and they deserve their respect and all that. Most
Right.
people I've played with, though, are pretty much, normal people. I mean, when I was working with Bob, I mean, it was a little intimidating when I first got the call.
Right.
I was out to dinner, and I was out to dinner with my girlfriend at the time, and I don't know, I might have even told you this story before, but we were having dinner downstairs from where her office was, and her assistant came down saying, hey, somebody from Bob Dylan's office is looking for Kenny. And so she gave me a phone number. I called them back the next day.
Right.
And they wanted to know if I was immediately available to rehearse with them.
Wow.
I mean, it happened really, really fast. But the first few days that I rehearsed, Bob wasn't even there.
Okay.
I just learned the tunes with the other guys in the band teaching me the tunes, I mean, Bob didn't even show up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden Bob's there and I'm rehearsing with him, and then a couple of days later I'm on a plane.
Wow.
I learned a shitload of songs in about 4 days, and the next thing I know, they asked me if this amount of money per week was okay, and I was like, yeah, that sounds dandy to me. and I was on a plane and on the road with him. So, and actually Bob was pretty cool when I worked with him for that brief period of time. He was pretty kind of normal, nothing too weird about him at that point.
Sure.
Or anything,
Definitely.
We used to talk about Johnny Cash and different people, and he was pretty normal, actually, at that time, anyway.
Sure.
But you know what? I mean, I don't know. I'm not the type of person that really cares about meeting famous people.
Sure.
I don't give a damn.
Right.
I prefer to admire my heroes from a distance. I don't really care whether I meet them or not, because
Right.
sometimes, I mean, I've met people that I've admired that weren't really friendly towards me, or
Right.
they're just kind of weird. But you know what? You got to think that, listen, musicians, artists, actors, actresses, people in the arts, creative people, a lot of people are very insecure.
Right.
And, and you're up against, other people doing the same thing, and everybody's competing for this and for that. And, even, musicians, everybody's, insecure about this guy or that guitar player or that bass player, or, I mean, and so, sometimes I suppose people could be a little weird and stuff, but I really, I prefer. I'm happy on the sidelines.
Sure.
I'm happy backing people up. I don't need to get involved with all the politics or anything like that. I'm about the music. I don't need to get into the drama or bullshit.
Right. No, I hear you there, man. Well, let's fast forward.
But we are dealing with egos and
Right.
insecurity, and that stuff does come out, and you have to deal with it at some point or another. But
Right.
that's with anything.
Right. And to be honest, in this industry, that is what leads to a lot of the creative genius. Is it's same with like comedians, where comedians, the funnier they are is usually because of the more tragic their life is.
Yes, unfortunately, that seems to be true. And it's one of those things. It's like the angst.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the more angst you have, it's like I don't really like anything that I'm not really a songwriter, but anything I've written was because I was having a lot of angst about something,
Right.
or I was really, really pissed about something, or something was really affecting me on some emotional level that it came out in some lyric of some sort, or whether it's poetry or however it is,
Right.
Whether I actually was able to put it to music or not. But I wrote it down because I was feeling the pain or the anger or whether it was from somebody screwing me over, or whether it was a woman or a business thing or a family thing, or whatever it is.
Right.
I wrote a song. I wrote one song when I was playing with Joan Jett. That's not really well known. It came out on one of her greatest hits collections. I think it was Fit to Be Tied album.
Okay.
Anyway, I wrote this song called World of the Nile, and I wrote it because at the time I was living with my ex-girlfriend, and my ex-girlfriend was going through this crazy thing involving one of her sisters.
Okay.
And it was this inter-family crazy situation, really ugly, really, really ugly.
Right.
And I was in the apartment listening to these phone conversations, and I wrote this song based on that Joan recorded. So it wasn't my own personal crap going on, but
Right.
It was through my girlfriend, and I just sort of interpreted it all into a song just from listening to this craziness. So yeah, it's heavy emotional stuff that I know for me when I'm happy, I really don't have anything to write about.
Right. Understand that.
Writing about being happy, I don't know. That's kind of boring to me.
I'm with you, man. Well, Kenny, let's move forward to what you're doing right now. You've been with the Yardbirds for what now? 2.5 years at this point?
Yeah, I've been with the Yardbirds about 2.5 years now, and I always say to people, it's like a 50-year-old dream come true,
Sure.
and that dreams can really happen, even if they take 50 years, because the Yardbirds are pretty much were my favorite band in the world when I was a teenager.
Sure.
And I had all their records, and they were all in mono, and I played them over and over. I drove my parents crazy, and I loved all their records, and just Paul Samuel Smith was a really huge early influence on me as a bass player.
Sure.
And I loved Jeff Beck's playing through a fuzz tone so much that I gave up bass to play guitar, but it's a good thing I didn't because I'm a lousy guitar player. But I just loved the Yardbirds, and I loved all the music. I loved the rock and stuff and the blues stuff with Clapton, and I loved the psychedelic stuff, and I loved when they got introspective, and I liked when they sang about things going on in the world, or I just loved all their music, and then I sort of, I went on with my life. However, that, unfolded from
Sure.
band to band and became, side man and all that stuff. And then, it just, one day I was emailing with a friend of mine from New York, a guitar player named John Paris.
Okay.
And at the end of the email, whatever that was about, he said, by the way, I think the Yardbirds might be looking for a bass player.
All right.
Why don't you get in touch with Jim McCarty? He's on Facebook. And so it was one of those days where I was feeling really good about myself. And I was just like, gee, I think I will do that. And I Facebooked him, and I just sent him a short personal message telling him who I was. I wouldn't bore him with the details, but if you just Google my name, you'll see what I've done.
Sure.
And that I was a huge Yardbirds fan, and Paul Samuel Smith was a major influence on me as a younger person. And I said, if you need somebody, I'm available. And 3 days later, he got back to me through Facebook and said, you've got the gig.
Wow.
So it had to be the easiest gig I ever got.
Right.
I mean, it was just basically, he just gave it to me, and that's basically how it worked out, and so that's what I've been doing, I mean, amongst other things.
Sure.
And, we started this. So we've been touring here and there over the last 2.5 years,
Right.
And we haven't been touring a whole lot. I mean, I would like to be doing more,
Sure.
and I think everybody would like to be doing more, and we're trying to work up to that. A couple of guys live in Europe and stuff, and so and everybody does other things.
Right.
As you have to these days, it's just, we're at the point where you really got to sort of do whatever you can to keep going. I mean,
Right.
I don't have the luxury of just doing one thing to pay the bills.
Right.
Plus I like being diversified anyway, but I mean, everybody's got to do what they got to do. But, but we have this, we started this Pledgemusic campaign.
Sure.
And we're trying to, raise the money up to do a new record.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Jack Douglas, the wonderful world-renowned producer-engineer from, John Lennon and Aerosmith and Cheap Trick, Alice Cooper, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Jack's got an amazing career. He's on board to do it if we can make this happen. We're probably going to do it up at Aerosmith Studios up in Massachusetts.
Okay, wow.
And everybody in the band has been writing music, fresh, new music. We don't want to rehash old stuff, really, because we just feel that's been done enough. And the band is really great. I mean, we got Johnny A on guitar, who's a badass,
Right.
in his own right. I mean, he's got a solo career that he's always doing, and I go see him all the time when he's doing his solo thing, and he's just a tone monster. And we've got Mike Scavone from the Doughboys, who are a really great garage rock band, and another band that if they're around, they're guys from New Jersey, and I'm from New York, Jersey area, so if they play around, I go out and hang out with those guys because they're a great band, and Mike's a great harmonica player, and John Iden, who's the singer, rhythm guitar player, who's been with the Yardbirds now for a while. He's another great guy, and McCarty on drums, and he's a sweetheart, and it's a great band. It's a great band. I mean, the band kicks ass. I mean, in my opinion, it's probably, I feel it's the best band since, the old Yardbirds in whatever version of it. It's really, and I understand that people sometimes go, well, it's not the Yardbirds, you don't have Backpage or, whatever.
Right.
But you know what? We got Jim, and Jim thinks it's the best band since the old days. And we grew up, everybody in this band plays music because of the Yardbirds.
Sure.
We grew up with it. We're not like copying these records that we heard because we're all like, young kids or something we grew up with this stuff when it was. I mean, in some cases, we've seen them live. I mean, we're not young guys anymore.
Right.
We lived those times.
Mm-hmm.
The Yardbirds, age-wise, we're right behind them. So we were the next cats to come up behind those bands. And that music was really, really important to all of us. So we play it out of the love and the passion that
Sure.
we have for it. We're not just trying to copy it note for note. We don't do that. I mean, we're really respectful towards it, but we're all great players on our own. We can take it
Mm-hmm.
and still interpret it our way and still be true to it. So I would never call it a tribute band at all. And I know there are people out there who are very purist about stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it. Some people just are going to go, it's not the Yardbirds. Well, fine, but you know what? If you tend to feel that way, you should come out and see the goddamn band,
Right.
because we're gonna kick your ass.
Sure. And you know what's odd, at least to me, Kenny, and you as a lifelong fan. I'm a little bit younger than you, I believe. So the Yardbirds were already gone by the time I was really into music. I didn't get into music till like the mid 70s, I guess. But people don't realize just how important this band was. I mean, sure, they know Clapton, Beck, and Jimmy Page, but that's kind of, they forget how many hits there were, and that really you had that first wave that Beatles, Stones, maybe the Who, and the Yardbirds were right there with them.
Yardbirds have a really important legacy in rock and roll,
Right?
Because they launched arguably the three greatest guitar players of rock,
Sure.
Clapton, Beck, and Page. Each one of those people have gone on to create incredible music that's changed over the years within their own thing as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
You've seen how Clapton started out, where he went.
Right.
You've seen that with Beck. You've seen that with Page. Without the Yardbirds, you'd have no Led Zeppelin. Without Led Zeppelin, where the hell would rock music be now?
Right.
Jeez, I mean, think about it. I mean, all this came out of the Yardbirds.
Sure.
Very, very important band. I mean, and the band is probably the image or the brand of the band, and maybe the sound of the band, has been diffused from over the years of a lot of different versions of it. I mean, they've always have good players in it, whatever it's been, but, it's kind of, it's like when something just isn't handled properly, and,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of can get diffused a bit, and sort of it loses direction. Well, we're trying to change all that, because this version of the band should really do another record, and that's the whole point of trying to do this, and, we want to try to have control over it to be able to do it right.
Right.
So that's the whole point of trying to make this whole Pledgemusic campaign happen, because we feel we know what the right thing is for this band to do, to keep going, to really be true to the legacy of it, and make music that I think people are going to really dig. And that's what we're working on. We're really trying to make it happen. And, so we're just trying to push this Pledgemusic campaign.
Right.
And we've got dates coming up in Europe in September, and we're hoping to start recording in November. And and we're already looking at stuff for next year. And we're just just trying to keep going, man. That's all we can do. You know, that's all anybody can do.
Sure. Now, for people that want to contribute to the Pledge Music campaign, the web address is pledgemusic.com/projects/the Yardbirds-new album, and that's a whole lot of stuff. But I would suggest you just hit the little search thing on the right side of the screen, and you type in the Yardbirds. It comes right up, and people should contribute. You know, they get to. You know, if you're a fan of the Yardbirds and you want to kind of be a little piece of, you know, the rebirth of the band, more or less, or the bringing it back to the masses, then this is your chance, right?
Absolutely, and we've got all kinds of levels that you can pledge on. I mean, it's as little or as much as you'd like to be part of it. I mean, if you want, we'll come to your house and put on a show. I mean,
Wow.
if you want to be an executive producer, you can even do that. I mean, there's all kinds of levels. I mean, but it's a very minimal. If you want to download, you know, you can. It's very affordable. And but I will have to say that I really think that if you hear that we're playing somewhere, you need to come out and see this band, because this band really kicks butt, man. And I couldn't do something if I didn't believe in it.
Right.
I've got to, you know, to me it ain't about money or anything. I gotta dig the music. I gotta dig the people I'm playing with. I've got to like what's really going on. And
Right.
I'm telling you, this band really rocks it.
Excellent. Well, Kenny, why don't we wrap this interview up with a Yardbirds tune? Why don't you tell me what you'd like us to play, and maybe tell us a story about how that song affected you, or how it plays live, or whatever.
Wow. Off the top of my head, wow, how about Happenings 10 years time ago, man?
All right. And why that one?
That's a good one. I love that tune. And, yeah, we play that live, and it's great, man. We kill that one.
All right. Well, let's check it out right now. This is the Yardbirds right here on your Classic Metal Show.